The Nintendo Switch 2 Direct just ended a couple minutes ago, so I'm going to be talking through the entire show and telling you what I think. My name is James, and I started this channel simply because I love video games. If that sounds like you, please subscribe to my channel so that you can see more videos just like this one. Big stuff in this show. I'm going to talk through kind of my outline that I have written up right now. They first talked about Mario Kart World, new features for the Switch 2. Then they talked about hardware. Then they talked about Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, which they are saying is a game. Then they talked a little bit more about hardware, but not necessarily the system, more like accessories and stuff. They did give us a release date finally. Then they talked about some games that are going to be enhanced for Switch 2. And then they talked about a whole bunch of third-party partners and had a game montage. And then at the end, they showed a trailer for Kirby Air Riders and then one for Donkey Kong Bananza. And so off the top, I thought this was a really great showing. I was impressed with the amount of games, the amount of third-party support, which means that it's clear already that this is not going to be a Wii U situation. I was also pretty impressed with some of the new features they showed off, which I'll get into more later. But I think what I was most impressed with was probably the way that they talked about the actual hardware and what it's capable of. It's interesting to see how the hardware is probably going to be better than most people had anticipated. I think that's all for my general thoughts. Now I'm going to actually get into the individual items. All right, so they opened the show with Mario Kart World. This looks to be really interesting. At first, it looked like just a standard Mario Kart game to me. I'm not a big Mario Kart fan. I don't really have friends that play Mario Kart, so I'm not really in the Mario Kart sphere. But they did kind of highlight some features that I know weren't in previous Mario Kart games. Like, I know they talked about in the Grand Prix mode how part of the race is going to be driving from one track to another track, which I think is pretty interesting. I think that could potentially get annoying, but we don't really need to get hung up on that stuff right now. And then they talked about free roam and photo mode, which I think are pretty much exactly what they sound like. And then the thing that I actually find most interesting is the knockout mode that they talked about, which seems to basically be a like Mario Kart Battle Royale, where every lap or every race or something, like the bottom couple people just get cut out. And so I would imagine that it would come down to just two people, and then you would be the winner. They also said that there is going to be a Mario Kart Direct on April 17th, so in about 2 weeks, and that Mario Kart World is going to come out the same day as the Switch 2, so I'll probably get it. Next, they talked about some new features on the Switch 2. In some of the photos, people had already been speculating about the C button. The C button is going to be used to interact with the brand new game chat feature. The way that they showed it off, it looks pretty cool. It seems like similar to what you can already do on PlayStation and Xbox and on PC. You're going to be able to talk with other people that are on their own Switch 2 systems while you're playing a game, while they're playing a different game or the same game, so that y'all can talk to each other. And then they also talked about the Switch 2 camera. So if you wanted to do it as kind of like a video chat type thing, you could as well. And then there's also an option to share your screen with the people that are in the same like chat as you. So you can see your screen, and then at the bottom it would be like a little image, and you'd be able to see all of their screens too. It does look pretty cool. I don't really see myself using that feature very much. I would be interested to see if in the game chat system they include Discord integration like they have already done on Xbox and on PlayStation, because I think that would actually open up the possibilities for it so much more, because then if you're on Nintendo Switch 2 using the game chat on there and it can connect to Discord, you would then be able to chat with somebody, with your buddy who's playing over on PlayStation or on Xbox or on Steam or anything like that. So I would be interested to hear more about that feature. In that section, they also talked about Game Share, which I had thought that they had already talked about this before, but maybe not. It seems like playing multiplayer games, now only one person has to own the game. And I would imagine this to be true for most of Nintendo's first-party games that do support multiplayer, but they did specify that it is going to be on a game-by-game basis, which does lead me to believe that it's going to be up to the game developers of each individual game. Next, they talked about hardware. The first thing they started with was the screen. They said it's going to be a 7.9-inch LCD screen. It's going to support 1080p handheld, and it'll also support HDR in handheld mode. They mentioned that it's the same thickness as the original Switch. They talked about the Joy-Cons being magnetic, which people already kind of know. And they talked about the SL and SR buttons, which are the two buttons on the inside of the Joy-Con. Those buttons are going to be a little bit bigger so that they're not so difficult to hit if you're playing a game. Both thumbsticks are going to be a little bit bigger, which I think is an improvement. Either Joy-Con will be able to be used as a mouse, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more later on. And they showed a little bit about how the mouse can be used in different games, and it does look pretty interesting. But I would want to see how the third-party support is for the mouse functionality. They talked about the new stand that is on the back, that it can go in any angle, and it's much wider and more stable than the Switch 1. It looks to be pretty similar to the stand that was on the OLED model of the Switch. They also talked about the two different USB-C ports. There's going to be one on the bottom of the Switch and one on the top. The top and bottom one can both be used for charging, and then the top one can be used to connect the Nintendo Switch to camera when you're playing docked. They also mentioned that the dock has a built-in fan to help cool your system down when you're playing docked, and I think we're going to start to see a larger discrepancy between playing docked and playing handheld, and they did specifically mention in the video that having the fan in there helps with performance. Next up, they talked about Nintendo Switch Welcome Tour, which seems to just be a pretty in-depth intro to the system. They were calling it a game, but it seems like it's much more like information and like tutorial driven. And what puts me off about it, I'll get to that in a second. I think that would be a really good introduction to the console, just so that you're aware of all of the different features and stuff that it includes. They keep calling it a game. It doesn't really seem like a game to me. And what does put me off, that I was interested in probably checking it out, that I was gonna be like, yeah, this is gonna be like Astro's Playroom. It's an unwritten requirement for the console. But they said it's gonna be a paid package, which makes me not interested in it at all. I wouldn't be surprised if they reverse course on that and do include it as a free include, like an Astro's Playroom or a Wii Sports or something like that. Overall, at this time, I would say that I'm not interested in Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. Next, they talked a little bit more about hardware. They talked about the new Switch 2 game cards and how they are the exact same shape as the Switch 1 game cards, except they are red. And then they also talked about a new type of micro SD cards that are a little bit quicker, and they talked about how they're different from the original micro SD cards in the video, but I didn't quite catch that part. They also showed the new Pro Controller, and it seems like the biggest difference in the Pro Controller is that this one is going to include the new C button for your chat stuff. It includes an audio jack that I assume is going to be used for your chat stuff, and I'm hoping it can also be used for game audio, but I don't think they confirmed that it will be able to. And then the Switch 2 Pro Controller is going to have two back buttons on there that, personally, I'm not a fan of back buttons, but I'm glad that they're there for people that want to use them. And finally, they got to the thing that we were all waiting on. The release date of the Nintendo Switch 2 is June 5th. This is exciting. This is a little bit earlier than I would have thought. I was thinking we were going to go more in the June 24th, 25th range, about 3 weeks earlier than I would have thought. A little disappointing that they didn't give us a price or any information about pre-orders or anything like that, but I assume that we'll be getting that information soon. Next, they talked about some games that are already on Nintendo Switch that are going to receive a Nintendo Switch 2 edition, which usually means that they're going to have some new features, some added elements, some improved visuals, any of that kind of stuff. I'm going to list all of the games, but I'm not going to get into the specifics of each one. You're probably better off going and watching the actual statement from Nintendo. The games that they highlighted were Super Mario Party Jamboree, Zelda Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom, which it was unclear if the Switch 2 edition of those games are going to come as a package or you would have to buy them separately. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Pokemon Legends ZA, and Metroid Prime 4. And I'm going to pause on Metroid Prime 4 for a second. This one is probably the most exciting one to me because once again, it really does look like they're just going all out for Metroid Prime 4. They did confirm that Metroid Prime 4 will include the mouse functionality, and they also said that when you're playing docked, it'll play at a 4K resolution and 60 frames per second, or in performance mode, it will be 120 frames per second at 1080p. And this is insane to me because this is not what I would have expected at all from Nintendo hardware. And then after that, they talked about a brand new game called Drag and Drive. And this one is like a basketball game that's going to have you using the mouse functionality on the Joy-Con, and it seems like basically your character is in a wheelchair, and you use the like Joy-Cons to like roll the wheels of your wheelchair and then like throw the ball and stuff. It looks interesting. It's kind of funny, but I would expect this to be kind of like the Switch 2's 1-2 switch. That I think that there's going to be a small group of people that really like this game, and then most people are going to be like, it's cool, but let's move on. After that, they talked about some of their third-party partners, and I'm just going to read through all of them. I'm not going to stop and pause on any of them unless I feel led to. Elden Ring, Hades 2, something from Capcom that I didn't fully understand. But with that one, they did talk about 3 new amiibo, which is tempting, but I think my amiibo journey is coming to an end. Daemon Ex Machina, Split Fiction, they talked about EA Sports Football Club and Madden, Hogwarts Legacy, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, Hitman World of Assassination, James Bond, Bravely Default Remastered, Yakuza 0 Director's Cut. And I'm gonna go a little bit out of order on these just so that I can get all the third-party games out of the way right now. They also talked about Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4, Borderlands 4, Civilization 7, WWE 2K, NBA 2K, and then the stream cut out for a second. And then when it came back, they were talking about Enter the Gungeon 2, Cyberpunk 2077. And then there was a huge third-party game montage that I was going to try and write all of them down, but there were just way too many to list. But I do know that Hollow Knight Silk Song was in there. Shout out to my buddy Kevin. And then the final third-party game that they ended up with was a game called Dark Bloods, which is created by FromSoft, and I didn't see it say that it was going to be a Switch exclusive, but one of my buddies said that it said it, so we can believe him, I guess. It's cool to see Nintendo getting such large third-party support, and I'm really excited to see what happens on the system. We're going to be going back in time a little bit in the stream now. There were a couple first-party updates that were thrown in the middle of all the third-party stuff. The first one is Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, which they said it's being developed by Koei Tecmo with input from Nintendo. This is going to be another Dynasty Warriors style game, one of the like 1 vs 1000, and I'll probably buy it. I guess I should probably play the other 2 that I have first though. Next, and this was pretty exciting for me, Next, they talked about an update to Nintendo Switch Online. GameCube games are coming to Nintendo Switch Online, and the GameCube games are only going to be available on Nintendo Switch 2. They only listed 3 games that are going to be there on day 1, but they did show a bunch of other games that are going to be there. The 3 games that they've confirmed will be there day 1 are The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, Soul Calibur 2, and F-Zero GX. They also talked about a new GameCube controller that's going to have the C button on it and a headphone jack and all that good stuff. Only 2 more things to talk about. First is Kirby Air Riders. This seems like this is a new entry in the Kirby Air Ride series, but not really a series because it only had 1 game before. At first, I thought it was just going to be a remake or remaster of Kirby Air Ride, but they did confirm that it is a new game and that it's coming in 2025. And they did confirm that Masahiro Sakurai, the creator of Kirby and the steward of the Super Smash Bros. Series, is involved in this game as well. And then finally, they ended the show with Donkey Kong Bananza, which is a new 3D Donkey Kong game that I think we had previously heard rumors that it was being made by the Super Mario Odyssey team. So this explains that. It also explains the redesign of Donkey Kong that was picked up in the previous marketing materials from Switch 2 in the Mario Kart game. And they said that this game is going to be coming out July 17th, 2025. So it's not going to be a launch game for the Switch 2, but it will be there 1 month later. I'm not personally very familiar with Donkey Kong at all. I've played Donkey Kong Country on the SNES, but never really much else. So I'm hoping that this will be a good way to enter the series. Guys, that's all I have for today. In the comment section, please let me know what you thought of the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct from this morning. Until next time, the best way to keep up with me is on Twitter and on Instagram at James_Solar and on Blue Sky at jamessolar.bsky.social. Thanks, guys.